Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Cullen Strawn. I'm the Executive Director for the Arts at Old Dominion University and also the Director of the Gordon Art Galleries, where tonight we have a very special program featuring the 2021 Juried Student Exhibition, which is juried by Carl Medley. And we have a number of student artists with us tonight who will be part of the program. Before we get going, I want to take the opportunity to introduce you to our newest team member at Arts at ODU and the Gordon Art Galleries. Gordon, the telepresence robot, will be joining us tonight and will be operated by Sarah Glaser, who is the program manager for the arts at ODU. Hello, Sarah. And Sarah will be joining Carl in the gallery for the program. Gordon is, as I said, a telepresence robot, which means that anyone anywhere in the world with a decent internet connection can log into Gordon during these pandemic times and beyond and physically move through the galleries as Sarah is now. You can zoom in on art. You can invite your friends and family to join you on the call so that they can be part of it as well. So this is an innovative way that we're expanding access during the pandemic, and we encourage all of you to give it a try. You can simply go to odu.edu/arts, or you can check social media at ODU Arts on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram to find out more. So getting started with our program, to introduce our juror, Carl Floyd Medley III. Carl attempts to confront his surroundings the only way he knows how, with humor. As a child of the 80s, Carl grew up with a healthy mix of choose-your-own-adventure books, cartoon merchandising, and a family whose method for dealing with life's trials and tribulations was centered around jokes. He now uses his foundation in realism to turn cultural references on their heads and create narratives ranging from absurd to heartfelt. By employing various techniques and mediums, Carl continues his journey to create encompassing experiences and ignite dialogues that lead the viewers to question, understand, and even laugh at themselves and the world they live in. So with that, Carl, I will give you the floor. Welcome.
Hi, Cullen. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to the ODU Arts. Thank you, ODU. Thank you to the Baron and Ellin Gordon Art Galleries. This is a real honor. I'm already loving this talk and this opening. This is probably one of my favorite openings ever because I don't have to be around people. That's a joke. Now, I would love to be with all of you guys. So I'm happy that you're here. I cannot see any of you right now. So if at all during this, anybody has any questions or they want to talk about anything, please feel free to speak up. We're going to try to get to everybody. Makes it a little bit more challenging, the fact that you're not here with me, but we'll make it work. I appreciate the intro. Thank you very much. Carl Medley, I live in Hampton, Virginia. I actually graduated from ODU in 2006 with a BFA in studio art with a concentration in graphic design. And I've been a designer and an art director commercially for the past 15 years. And all the while, trying to keep my artistic side present. I look at this body of work and I'm just in awe because I was not doing this work at the the time that you guys are. I wish I was. So my hat is off to you guys just initially. But yeah, I work a lot with humor. I am a painter primarily. I do a lot of canvas and board work. I also do a lot of mural work. I have some around town and some in other cities. And I've gotten to do some installation work. In the past 15 years, it's taken me a while to build my own voice, to have confidence in that, to feel like I can put myself out there and really own my approach. And it's been a lot of hard work, but yeah, it's brought me here, and it's actually brought me this opportunity, which is really, really great. I say that because I want to segue into what you guys are doing here. Like I said, I was not doing this level of work at your age or at this time, in school. I was mostly doing things for school assignments to get them, get good grades, I guess. I wasn't really thinking about it beyond that. So I'm a little jealous, so I'm okay admitting that. But I applaud you guys for doing the work that you've done. Congratulations for getting to the show. I'm not going to read through the whole didactics, but one of the things that I felt was really the unifier for the show was themes that I'm going to probably repeat a lot tonight, is human connection, right? This is such a weird time for like infinity reasons, obviously, but the idea that you guys have created work that I feel like, personally, I feel like human connection is really a central theme. You've got things that feel very biographical, things that just feel like helpful in a time of need. You've got pieces that are very intimate, and I feel like owning that vulnerability is what makes people really good artists. You try, you fail, you're okay with putting yourself out there. It's something that you really need to practice at and build on. So that's why I wanted to bring that up. I wanted to segue what I've done, what I've taken 15 years to do, and say, I think you guys are really well on your way with the work that I'm seeing here. So we're going to go around. I'm going to talk about some pieces, but this is pretty organic and informal. So like I said, if you guys have anything, I've got about 5 pieces that I want to go around and talk about that I feel really exemplify some of the stuff I talked about. So it's not that if I'm not talking about your piece, it's not because I don't want to talk about it. It's just because I want us to kind of get, this conversation going. And by all means, if you've got questions about your own work, if you've got something you want to say about something that I'm talking about or that you've seen, please let me know. That's why I'm here. We're making the best of you guys not being here, which obviously you'd be able to do that a lot easier. I'm going to try to focus with a robot following me around, which is very cool, by the way. I've done it. And I saw the Andy Harris's exhibit, who was here previously. It was amazing. And it was such a cool tool. And, the galleries should be super proud of themselves for having a feature like that. Okay. So I'm going to start talking about some of the pieces. One of the first pieces I want to talk about actually is this piece right in the front, the Notre Dame replica by Steph Buckley. Love, love, love this piece. I wrote in my notes that the idea of rebuilding a landmark, and for anybody who doesn't know, when Notre Dame burned, the world kind of mourned for whatever your view of that piece of history is. It got a world reaction, and I think in something like this past year, where we've got traditions being addressed, there's been this awakening in the country of Confederate monuments. There's been all this talk about telling history. I don't want to say in a correct way, but doing things like, let's actually talk about how we're talking about history. I think this is a really great piece for that reason. It feels like, Steph, it feels like you made this in your own view. I mean, if you look up, you can see just pictures of the cathedral itself, but you also have other historical landmarks, which I think is really interesting. And there's also a very, very, very cool use of materials happening here, where you use slides. That's so great. Like, I haven't seen a slide probably since high school. There's this personal feel to something that is not yours, but you made it yours, and you kind of remade it in your own light. And so I really like it. Bravo. You've got a very cool understanding of materials, I think in general, since you've got another piece actually that made it in, which I just want to show, American Illusion, which has, it's got glass. It looks like you have some welded pieces there. So again, I kind of an extension of this piece, but just really, really cool understanding of materials. So bravo. I really like this stuff. Really, really love it. Over here, The Burning of Minneapolis by Andre Jacobs. And I apologize if I don't have everybody's like titles and names memorized. I'm a visual person, so I'm okay with reading things. This piece I was really, really happy to see in person because of the scale, first and foremost. I when you see stuff online or you see images, you know the scale because you actually see the numbers of what you submitted. But I was really happy to see this in person, especially being a painter. I love working in scale. I think once you, as an artist, once you start playing with scale, when you work, really small or really big, having been somebody who's worked on murals that are up to 100 feet wide, down to things that are about 4 inches by 4 inches, you can really appreciate this stuff. So immediately was found this piece very arresting in person. In the same way that the first piece, the subject matter was really great. I think you can't ignore the subject matter in this because it's obviously feels it not only current is kind of an obvious thing, but it feels like you are actually expressing emotion about what we've gone through this past year without overly doing it. And I find that so beautiful. The juxtaposition of how this woman is sitting and the fact that she's just on the edge of a bed, and just these fires like are raging outside, and she seems, I don't know if she's just completely calm about it. I don't know if she's like, yeah, absolutely, let it burn. But I feel like I'm catching the middle of a movie, or the middle of, this almost feels like an artboard, that you're selling to a production place, which I find so great. I almost want to like fill in the blanks of the story, which, if you can do that as an artist, it's really cool. It means that I love it when you can draw people in for elements or composition or whatever, but then also let them put their own dialogue into it. I try to do that a lot with my own work, but very, very cool. The other works I want to bring up over here are these two paintings. Paintings, Megan Bird, Port Warwick Party, and TP Horde. I think one of the challenges of this past year has really been talking about the time, and not seeming overtly kitschy, I guess is the only word I can come up with. As an artist, I see a lot of things where people are painting subject matter with masks on it, or they're playing with the idea of social distancing. They're making puns, and don't get me wrong, I love a good pun. If you take a look at my work, I absolutely love a good pun. But these are just great because they just feel like what everybody knows, and in a way that, like when I think about folk art, and not in the sense that these feel, old folk art, they're telling a story. And it's almost like, if we didn't have photography, and how would you tell the story of what happened this weekend or this person's life? And you would have these illustrations and these paintings that literally show it, and they're honest and they're really great. And I don't know, there's just something so simple and approachable, and it makes you feel, as somebody who, at least I've struggled over this past year with just like finding other people going through what you're going through. That's what these do. I mean, the TP Horde is it just takes me back to a year ago when this ridiculous thing was happening and everybody was buying toilet paper. You know, you have this person in the bathtub. I think that's a bathtub with their cat, like talking to their cat. They've got all of their toilet paper there. I mean, it's just what everybody's been through. You know, everybody hanging out at a table with hand sanitizer. It's literally just a really great approach to what we've been experiencing. So really, really, really cool. I want to go all the way over to the other side of the room. This piece over here, and forgive me for if I butcher your name, Sequoia McLaurin, Juxtaposition Magazine. As somebody who was a graphic design concentration and somebody who has had to walk that line of design and artist and really constantly struggle with, do I call myself this? Do I call myself this? Can I use these things in both of these worlds? I really wanted to call this out because I feel like maybe part of it is when I was in school, you know, graphic design it was considered like this separate part of the arts. I don't know how it is now, but I'm super happy that you submitted this because I don't know if you are a graphic design major or not. If you are, I would say don't lose this approach to design. You know, this idea of playing with type, you know, be still my heart. I do a lot of work with typography, words, phrases. It's a lot of what I do. This is really great. Don't lose this, I don't know, this energy or this drive for this medium, because there's a lot of people who are afraid to take it there. So whatever, I mean, you know, whatever the motivation was for, I love the fact that it says the quarantine issue, and it just feels very weird and almost queasy. But I love the way that these words kind of meld in the middle. Really, really, really cool piece. One of the other ones I did want to call out here in the middle, Allie Montgomery, Tea and Tales. I just really, really like these. I'm not a sculptor. I obviously I did what everybody does when they're younger, when you learn to mess with clay. I think this goes back to some of the stuff I was saying in the beginning about owning vulnerability and putting something out right now that just feels so personal and speaks to the need for people to interact. These are pieces that you really, really just have to like see. And I don't know if this is a working tea set, but I would assume maybe it is. But you have to see and interact with and be with. And I don't know, just owning the idea of a dragon tea set to me is it's just fun. Like it's just great. And I think that a lot of what we've been through, again, over this past year, I know I'm going to keep saying that over and over again, but you cannot help but ignore just the level of intensity that we've all been through over this past year. So to see something like this and just smile, it really, really made me feel good. I really, really like these, and I would encourage you to kind of just chase whatever you find so interesting about this and just keep chasing it. I'm not saying that, oh, you found your thing and make dragon tea sets for the rest of your life. Absolutely. I'm not saying that, but like the energy that you had for this, like don't lose that, because I think that there's a lot of people right now that are You could very easily question, I talk about this in the write-up, you could question the idea of why even make art right now. I've said before, when people are like, well, what is art? It's like, that's just not a good conversation to have, because it goes nowhere, in my opinion. The question is like, why do we continue to make art? And this, and obviously like everything that's here, are really great examples of understanding the need for pushing people forward, for giving people hope, for being interesting, like giving people something to wonder about. And this is just a really, really great example of that. But speaking on the same subject of fun, I want to go back here to one of the two animations that are in the exhibit. This is Kylie Lohman, Rebecca and Clay. So this is a stop motion animation, and I want to say to the people who submitted, and actually to anybody who's here at school, like doing animations. I know that, or at least I think I've heard that there's not exactly animation programs. So I think it's really, really great that you guys are braving this world, because it's very current, but it's also it's like probably the most quickly evolving field that's out there. Motion designs, animation design. But I wanted to talk about this piece specifically, and I picked it for the show because I think on that same idea of being fun. Boy, did we need fun this year. Like, this just makes me so happy to watch. And the fact that you did stop motion and there's clay and paper, that you really, in the same way that I just talked about the dragon tea set, this isn't about, okay, well, this is all I know how to do with animation, so this is what I'm doing. I mean, maybe that's the case, but a little, I guess, lesson here on how to talk about your work. You chose to do this. That's really what comes from artistic mindset, is the idea of choice. And yes, there's certain things in practices that you can learn and get better at and really, really hone. Absolutely, you should. Put in your 10,000 hours. But at the end of the day, it's choice. I'm a huge Harry Potter nerd. I'm okay saying that. Actually, no, I shouldn't say nerd. I like Harry Potter. That's enough. And Dumbledore, I think it was Dumbledore who said, it's not our abilities that define us. It's what we choose to do with them. And to me, like, this comes off as, this is what you're choosing to do. You could be doing a lot of things, spending a lot of time on other animations, and you're choosing to do this, and that is amazing. Owning that, and again, like, really harnessing that energy is something that I would employ of everyone, of just knowing that you're not defined by what you can learn to do, you're defined by what you do with it. Okay, so really, really love this. Made me smile. Good job. So the last piece that I have planned to talk about, again, I'm here for you guys to go over things that you want to go over. But the last piece I want to talk about is A Soft Spot to Rest Your Head by Amber Pierce, who I will go ahead and say this is awarded Best in Show. It's a mixture of acrylic paint, yarn, fabric, cotton. It's a pillow, basically. I love this. You had two pieces, actually, which we can go over and show the one after this. But I think, to me, this piece hits on everything that I was talking about before in terms of human connection, being something that is sort of a successful melding of what has been happening over the past year, more than a year really, but again, like because of just how hyper intense everything was over the past year. A mixture of that, a mixture of really cool material exploration. And again, I'm a sucker for words. And it actually says on here, safe spot to rest your head. And the fact that this is so pretty and so delicate, but the subject matter is really heavy. And it's almost crazy that I'm using the word heavy to describe a pillow. But I immediately understand how to behave with this because I use a pillow every single night, sometimes in the afternoons if my son will let me. But there's just something really, really cool about the idea of mixing fabric and words and paint and just really trying to express, I think after the year that we've all been through, creating something that is meant to be there for somebody else. I mean, this sort of embodies everything that I was talking about in terms of human interaction and wanting to be together, while still having just a message that is kind of overpowering. I don't always feel like you have to have a message that people understand in your work, but I think in this case, it's a really, really, really cool way to do it. So my hat is off to you. Very, very, very cool piece. Love this piece. If we want to go over here, we can actually look at the other piece that she submitted, which I do love as well. It is called Shades of Blue. Fabric, embroidery, floss, and ceramic. So the base of this is ceramic, and there's fabric around the edge, and actually all of the illustrations are done with fabric, string, whatever. Forgive me, I don't exactly know what the specific materials are, but it's just awesome. And I think that I look forward to seeing a lot of the other stuff you're going to do with materials, knowing that you really seem like you're okay with trying stuff. And I think that is probably one of the things, if not anything else, that I would employ everybody to do is really be okay with trying stuff and really be okay with understand your voice, understand what you're trying to say, understand that that's always going to be changing, but be okay with trying things and be okay with putting yourself out there. And I feel like, Amber, you did a really, really good job of doing that, as did everybody else here. This is a really, really great show. So those are the pieces that I kind of put together thoughts on to call out. If you guys have any questions about your own work, or you want me to talk to you about anything at all, by all means, let me know.
My question, sir, is how did you choose the paintings that or the art pieces that you selected for the show? What was the criteria in your mind that you were looking for, you were going for?
Good question. Who is this?
My name is Andre Jacobs.
Andre, hi, nice to meet you. Oh, nice to meet you. That Andre Jacobs. Very well.
Yes.
So how did I select them? What was my criteria? So a lot of what I was looking at is there has to be a level of craft. Okay. I know that a lot of you guys are submitting, a lot of your students, a lot of you are submitting to something for the very first time, which is a really, really big deal. And I can tell you right now, it doesn't get any easier. But the first thing I look at when I'm selecting work is craft. And that's obviously very difficult when you're looking at something that is very, I guess we'll say multidisciplinary. So there's something from everything here. So when you're talking about craft, you kind of look at intent. Okay. You look at, what do I think the person was trying to accomplish here? And some of you did a good job of describing what you were trying to accomplish, so that helped. What were they trying to accomplish? Okay, based on what I think they were trying to accomplish, did they accomplish that? Is there an appeal? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I will say, this is my very first jury experience. And I have always actually wondered, okay, and I get this question a lot from other people who submit to stuff for like the first time or want to know how to get into shows. How do you make something that somebody's going to like? And if you ever figure that out, please let me know. No, it's very hard, because I'm the one who's picking it, and appeal is a certain factor. So I have to kind of like it. But underneath liking it comes from what I just talked about: intent, execution. I do tend to like if there is some kind of story or narrative going on. And again, that's hard when you're talking about something that is coming from multiple different backgrounds. But I would say intent, appeal, story, and then just, I think I might have mentioned execution. But that's really the basis. After that, I sort of like, I went through all of the work, and then I sort of felt like, what is something that is connecting a lot of this? Because you guys weren't, you guys weren't all working together. It wasn't like this was a group show and it was like, okay, the theme is this, everybody go make work, So the theme is having to come from me basically saying, what do I think is going on here? I do feel a little, I don't know what the word is. Like I have an edge on other jurors in other years, because I feel like coming out of this past year, everything that happened over the past year was basically on the top of my mind, and I would assume on the top of a lot of people's minds. So I wanted to see if there was anything having to do with that. Wasn't necessarily as strong of a criteria, but I feel like the fact that, you guys have been trying to do school however you've been doing it, and I can't imagine how you've done that, and you still had time to do this amazing work. So it was up to me to try to connect those pieces. I think those are pretty much the things that were going through my mind. Craft is really big for me. Craft, and it doesn't mean that, oh, I like things to be the way I paint them. I think it just means there's a very fine line between something looking like you accidentally got there and something looking like you purposefully got there. And I feel like everybody in this show that was selected, you guys did this on purpose. So that would be, I feel like that's my answer. Final answer.
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate that answer.
Absolutely. Does anybody else have anything they want to ask about the show? Anything they want to ask of me? Anything they want to say to me?
I just wanted to say briefly, I really appreciated the variety. Like sometimes when you think of art galleries or art shows, you think of paintings or something, but this was so much more, paintings, sculptures, animation, videos, different types of sculptures of different types of, genres within each subgenre kind of. So it was, I guess it's just more of a compliment to you, just a really good variety. But maybe just a quick question. Could you maybe briefly describe the process of like picking things for like an exhibit? Is it like a really hard process? You know, do you feel like, you know, you have to struggle to pick, you know, because you probably got a lot of people wanting to get in and stuff like that. Is it like an agonizing process, or would you say it was pretty easy for the most part? Or
That's a very, very good question. Who is this speaking?
Andrew Marlowe.
Andrew, hi, nice to meet you. First part of that, yes, it is very, very hard. Like I said, this was my first jury experience, so I've only been coming into it from the other side, basically what all of you have gone through. I've kind of made somewhat of a career on the idea of rejection. I wrote a piece actually. I wrote a piece last year. I think it was last year. So the MoCA had their New Wave show, which they do every year, which I would say everyone should start applying to that show, because it's a really, really great showing of Virginia talent. But the person who was the juror was from the Guggenheim, somebody who works at the Guggenheim. And the whole idea behind the piece was, you know, you should get rejected by MoCA because you'll be better for it. And really the idea, yes, I joke about rejection. I kind of make light of it. I often say that when I invite people to my shows, I often say that my mom will be there, so you should come. But the whole idea was, look, you know, yes, the show is whatever, $30-$35 to enter, but for 10 seconds or however long they look at the stuff, I looked at your stuff for more than 10 seconds, but you can have somebody from the Guggenheim looking at your work. I would say, yes, it is very, very hard doing this. It's very challenging to say, how do I make this all work together? Because you do want some kind of a theme. Like I was saying before, I mean, this isn't just like, this is a juried show. This isn't just a thing where everybody gets in. You know, there is a selection process. There is a winner, although you're all winners. No, but you are. It's very hard. It's very hard to say, well, this is a really cool sculpture made of wood that has words all around it, which I really think is really, really awesome. And over here, you've got this Three Skulls study, which is an incredible oil painting. So they're two completely separate things. Yes, it's very hard as a juror to select this stuff and to say, like, this gets in, this doesn't. But I think if you go back to the last thing we were just talking about what I look for in a body of work, which is going to be different every single time, every single show you submit to, or every gallery you try to get into, it's different. It's just a learning process. But for me, it was really, really great and really humbling, I will say, to be on this side of that process, to know, because I think a lot of people, if they don't understand that, they write it off as, that juror, what do they know? And it's like, well, yeah, sometimes that is the case, but a lot of times you just don't know. And there is that factor of appeal. Like, you have to be making something that I like. So congratulations. I like all of your stuff. That's really the kind of the elephant in the room that people don't want to talk about being an artist, is you put all of this hard work, you put thought into this stuff. You, like I was saying earlier about owning vulnerability, this is personal stuff. I mean, I don't know how many of you did these for school assignments. So there's part of that too. Like maybe you were doing it for a grade, but you were putting a lot into this, and that doesn't go ignored. But also there is that part of like, I really like that. And I think as a juror, like, that was a learning process for me of feeling comfortable liking stuff. You sort of like you were saying, there are certain galleries that they have very particular work that they show. And anybody who's trying to get into a gallery, I would definitely like research the kind of work they show, the kind of audience they bring in. I've been asked to do shows at galleries before where it was a complete bust because it was not my scene and it was not my people. And it was not like, even the idea of promoting it seemed weird because it was like, well, nobody I know is going to want to come here because they don't look at this stuff. So yeah, it was difficult, but I really, really enjoyed it. And I think I tried to put myself into that mindset of just owning the uncomfortableness of it, you know, in the same way that you would as making artwork. But very difficult to do something like this where everybody is coming from a completely different place. So yeah, great question.
Hi, Carl. I am Stephanie Buckley.
Hello.
Hi. I wanted to say, first of all, I'm so appreciative of being a part of the Student Juried show. This is my first show. And I wanted to kind of comment on something you said earlier about making things that people like. And I was kind of stuck in that headspace for a while. And I think it kind of blocked me creatively because I was always wondering, oh, who's going to like it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I talked to one of my instructors and they really helped me through that process because they told me, well, it's not about what people like. It's about making that connection to your piece. And then other people will have a connection as well. And you all can bond over that. Or if you don't know that person, they can kind of relate to that piece. Or maybe they don't relate at all. But it's something different or it's something unique, something they haven't seen before. And I just wanted to say the pieces that you selected from a variety of different students, it really showed a wide range. And I'm really appreciative of that, just seeing other student work, because, you know, during COVID, we've been so separated now, but yet we're still being creative and we're brought together through this juried show, and you pick these pieces. So I was wondering, could you give a little bit more details about when you were a student at ODU and what it was like for you being a creative artist? I know you said you were in the graphic design program, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So yeah. I am too. I'm going through the graphic design program, but I also love doing sculpture as well. Can you just talk about a little bit more of your experience being in the graphic design program, and did you kind of venture into other areas of art and sculpture?
Absolutely. Great question. And also, thank you for bringing up that point about getting stuck on what people like. I do want to clarify. We'll go over and walk over here because I like standing by your stuff. I don't want to impress on you guys that you need to make things that people like. I want you guys to understand that the unfortunate part about a lot of this stuff when you are applying to things is there is a level of you are at the mercy of what somebody likes. So you know, whatever their criteria is, the question of, you know, what my criteria was, there is an aesthetic appeal. Obviously, when you're talking to somebody who has an understanding of art history or arts in general, they can appreciate a lot more. Outside of that, it's difficult. So absolutely focus on you connecting with your work and believing in your work. I think in the same vein of admitting how much I love Harry Potter, I'm actually a huge 311 fan. They're a band for anybody who is way, way younger than I am, and today's 311 day. And they have a line in their song that says, what we know is what we call something like what we call is dope, we know will come around. So the idea of like doing you, putting it out there, sometimes people will like it, sometimes they won't, but absolutely, very, very good point. Your professor is very, very good for keeping you grounded with that notion of staying connected. To your question about my experience as a college student here, as an art student, specifically in the graphic design program, my time here was a little. It was spread out. Because I was an athlete too. My wife and I both swam here, so if I wasn't doing homework or vegging, or I was practicing or going to a swim meet. So unfortunately, as much as I love my artwork and I love being an artist, I didn't spend the time really exploring my own work. I had to remain a full-time student in order to swim, in order to be a varsity swimmer. So the classes that I ended up taking to remain full-time was the stuff I loved, which was drawing, which was painting. I did take some extra photography classes. I am by no means a photographer. So anybody who has an understanding of light, timing, composition when it comes to film and photography, that's amazing. But I knew that I loved drawing, and I knew that I loved painting, and I knew that I loved, I do love graphic design. At the time, I kept them very separate. Because that was sort of the way I was taught. It was, you had your design classes, which were studying typography and studying, page layout and studying things that were very, had a commercial application. I was kind of directed in the realm of when you go to job interviews for graphic design or at an agency or whatever, don't show your artwork. They don't care about that. That's not important. And that is 100% not true. I think that it's harder than ever to make yourself stand out. So since then, I had to sort of unlearn that and understand, like, no, my artistic understanding, my interest in color, my interest in being able to draw and being able to sketch, which I do commend the school for that. It did really help me. It helped me, get away from the computer. Because honestly, there's a lot of people that use the computer as a crutch. I would say if you're going to be a designer or an art director or anything in that graphic world, like, at least be comfortable with a pen and paper or a pencil or actual raw materials, because it's going to get you outside of that space. But yeah, at the time, I was a lot of discovery. I think throughout high school, I knew I wanted to study art, and I was really explorative. And then I got to college, and I thought, oh well, I'm a graphic designer. You have to be a graphic designer and stand like this and do graphic design things, and that's really not true. People like unique. They like understanding of things outside of just being able to set type. I don't like to live my life with any kind of regrets, but I do tell myself a lot. I wish at the time I had taken both my artwork and my graphic design work more seriously, in terms of thinking about it like past next week, because that's really all I was thinking about. It gets a lot harder to get back into it. When I left school, we graduated, and my wife was from Las Vegas, so we moved out west, and I immediately got a job at a decent sized agency. It was like 150 plus people working in hospitality and leisure. So I was like, I made it. This is it. I'm a designer now. Like, this is all I do. And I realized that I desperately missed creating. And for people who don't know that world, there is a very big difference between, laying out a flyer or a magazine or a website. I like that I use magazine as an example. What's a magazine? There's a difference between doing that stuff for 40 to 60 hours a week and sitting down with a paintbrush or going into the studio and working with different materials. A lot of times I use it as an escape. A lot of times I use it to just say, okay, well, in this world, I have a lot of control and I have a lot of power. If I don't like something, it's my choice. It's not somebody else's choice. And that took a while to learn. I think that was why I was so big on bringing that up at the beginning, is like the choices you guys are making here and the power you're showing in terms of, what you guys have in your head or in your sketchbook, and actually putting out into the world. It's a lot bigger than maybe you realize, or maybe you do, which is really great. I didn't realize it at that age. I just sort of looked at it as, okay, I can draw pretty well. Like I can get a good grade. I think my freshman year, I did a project the night before, and it was the only D I ever got. And I was like, well, never doing that again. But there was a lot of that. There was a lot of like, okay, what do I need to do to like get the grade? And once you leave school, you realize that nobody's grading you anymore. It's all on you. And so showing this initiative this early on, like you have, especially as a graphic design student, which I think knowing that and knowing this piece, I don't know if that was at all your motivation, but it makes a lot more sense because this is like, using an actual material that they used to use in graphic design. I mean, art directors and creative directors used to use slides before stuff was actually printed because you don't want to waste the money to print something right away. I think is really, really compelling. So yeah, that was a great question. I don't, like I said, I try not to regret stuff. I know all of those choices and every other choice I've had up until now has made me who I am and the character that I have. But a lot of it is just owning that and building on it. So great question.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Eva James.
Hello.
I think overall, all of these pieces are in, like you were finding the connections. The whole exhibition is in conversation with itself. And it's rather impressive to me since I haven't had an on-campus studio class since this semester, so almost a year. So we're working in isolation, and to see these messages come up in various different forms and having a variety of different artworks to look at, to me, that's very impressive. When I go to galleries, as mentioned before, I look for the conversation, and sometimes it just works from 1500 to 1550 and not selected works. And here's the line, here's what we're talking about. And these pieces, I can see a conversation from one to another, a continued conversation as soon as you enter the door and circle the gallery and exit. So overall, that's my comment on that. And yeah, thank you very much.
That's great. I thank you for saying that. I'm honored that you feel that way. Finding that connection after the fact is super difficult. My hat is off to the gallery who actually did all the installation. I mean, there is a large part of that comes from them. I have the luxury of saying this one, and they're like, great, now what do we do with them? But part of that intrigue comes from, it's a combination of the works themselves, that dialogue that you sort of inject into it in this case, and then how it's set up. It is a conversation. You do have flow, and truthfully, there's a lot of people who don't think about that, and it's kind of both sort of work. If you go into it and you naturally don't think about it and you enjoy it, hooray, it worked. If you go in and you realize that and you say, wow, like, I actually feel the energy here. I feel like I'm moving from one thing to another for a reason. Bonus, right? I'm actually in a group exhibition right now at MoCA called Nourish, and that is so. Whereas here is an example of basically a bunch of different people coming from a bunch of different places, all being brought together. Boy, we would love to do that right now, wouldn't we? That exhibition that's at MoCA is very much like all of us artists were sort of given a theme or an idea, or said, here's the premise of the show, go do that, go do the thing. And there still is the challenge when you come back of saying, okay, well, now how do we make this all work in a space? So absolutely, my hat is off to the galleries for installing this thing. They did an amazing job, and that's part of the part of that feeling, part of the emotion, part of what kind of keeps you moving. But very, very much appreciative of your acknowledgement there. Thank you very much.
So this is Megan Berg, and I wanted to say thank you for all of your feedback, and you definitely hit the nail on the head with my work, which was a pleasant surprise. Not that I thought that it was hard to read, but I'm glad that it's what I'm trying to say is being communicated.
You had these pieces over here, right?
Yep, I'm the TP hoarder.
Yeah.
And I was actually in the graphic design program about halfway through, and when the pandemic started, all I did in isolation was paint, and I ended up changing my major to painting.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big eye-opener. I definitely finally got the time that I wanted to dedicate to my art, and I wasn't giving it that time before. So I feel that is a silver lining for me out of all of this. But I do have a question for you about, after being a juror, how do you think that will affect your work after this? Do you think it will have an effect?
Man, that is a good question. Yeah, I think that it will affect my work. So I should back up and say the show that I'm in right now, the one I just described from MoCA, doing that and doing this, sort of two things back to back, of things that I had never really done before. The piece that I did for that show, to just give you a brief description, I was given a task, and if you guys should look up what the show is about. It's great, but I approached it differently in that I just didn't want it to just be about me painting, because I could do that, and that's really, I would love to do that, but I thought, based on the criteria of what I was working with for the situation I was in, I said, I can't do this by myself. So the idea was that I was going to do a painting, but the actual piece is a time lapse of the painting happening. And it works with 4 different artists and then myself. So 5 total. It's like, I think, over 24 hours of footage, gone down to like 5 minutes. And what you see in the gallery is the final thing, but then next to it, you see the time lapse happening. And they asked the same thing of me when I talked to the curators for the show. They were like, what has this kind of done for you? And I was like, it's completely changed my approach to collaboration. I already sort of knew that collaboration was a very big part of kind of pushing yourself, and having, working with peers or actually working like on the same piece is super eye-opening. And I think you guys should all try it. But with that piece, I really, really had to let go. And I really had to, the whole parameter was that they could do whatever they wanted. The only thing was they had to be okay with the next person coming in and covering up, which actually happened a few times. This experience, I feel like, I will say, has given me a lot more confidence, just in terms of what I had to go through, in terms of saying, these are, I wasn't entering shows like this when I was in school. So the idea that you guys have this much confidence, and that you guys have had these experiences and gone through like this, just the craziest time that I can remember, and still done this work, done stuff, changed your life around because of it, and also made really cool stuff. I'm going through a lot of change right now in my own life. I have a 2-year-old. My wife lost her job during the pandemic, so now I'm the only one with a paycheck. So now the idea of being a risk taker and trying things, it's sort of, you sort of feel it kind of coming in on you a little bit, and you get very scared. But hearing you talk about using this opportunity as a way to say, okay, well, I need this thing in my life right now. I think doing this has given me a level of confidence that I really, really needed, admittedly. It's a boost, and I have a body of work that I'm actually working on right now, but it's very, very difficult because free time is super limited. And there's that thing of like, whoa, you have as much time as you let yourself, have, which is very, very true. But any of you out there who are parents know, at the end of the day, you're like, I really just want to put on some TV and have a drink and just relax. So this is very much a confidence booster for me. Hearing you guys appreciate what's happening here, the connectedness, the dialogue made me feel like, oh, okay, maybe I know what I'm talking about. And you go through that doubt, and you will constantly go through that doubt. You will have these ups and downs. One of my favorite artists, Wayne White, you guys should look him up. He was one of the original creatives on Pee-wee's Playhouse. He's one of my all-time favorite artists, and he had a talk recently with Mocha where he talked about the cycle of an artist, and you kind of go through that like initial spark, and you're like, oh, this is really great. I'm going to sketch this thing. I'm going to do it this weekend. And then you're doing it, and you're like, oh, okay, this is really hard, but I like where this is going. And then you kind of get halfway through, and you're like, I don't know if this is working. And then you kind of get to right before you're done, and you're like, this is terrible. Nobody's going to like this. Why am I doing this? This is a waste of time. And then you finish it. You don't want to look at it. And then afterwards hopefully you feel accomplished or proud, or, maybe if you're not that psyched about it, which is okay, and somebody else is, that's also sort of rewarding. So there's that constant like up and down. And I think, like admittedly, being in a time where it's a little bit harder in my life, like this was a real confidence booster. So I feel like, I owe you guys, a lot of gratitude for letting me, I know you guys didn't have a choice, but letting me look at your work and feel that, that was really great. And knowing that everybody is doing really, really unique work in their own way is super cool too, because I always try to preach that, but until you see people doing it, that's not yourself, you kind of are like, am I really, am I really living that sort of thing? So, yeah, I'd say a lot more confidence in my work, I feel like, will come from this.
I can definitely relate to you when you say how, we growing that confidence. And I've been in this situation before where I'm designing something and I feel really great about it. And then you're right. It's like right before you're about to turn it in, you have this doubt. And you're like, oh, this isn't working. And,
laughing stock.
It's like trying to meet that deadline. And you're like, you're right there. And you're like, oh, I don't want to start over, but I'm not feeling confident about it. Mm-hmm. And I can totally relate to you. And I was laughing while you were talking about it. Not that it was funny, because, when you're in that moment, it's not funny. And you're kind of like sweating bullets. And you're like, I really have to meet this deadline, But then, looking back at it is kind of like, it's a lesson learned. It's like, it's okay that something didn't work. And then once you let it go, you may not want everyone to see it, but you let it go. Maybe you put it in the circular file and never see or hear from it again. And then you start something new. Mm-hmm. That to me is the confidence booster, knowing that I can start over, or at least take what's working and rework it. That is the major confidence booster, and just not giving up and just pressing forward. But that is a really good point that you made. And I'm just so glad that I'm not the only one who's been through that before.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
It takes away that stress, and just knowing that, even though I'm a student now, someday I may even be a juror. I don't know. But my question is, did you see yourself as being a juror when you were a student, when you were in our place? And if you can kind of shed some light on, that journey.
Yes, 1,000%. No, no, I never, when I was asked, I was kind of taken aback, because some of the stuff I was talking about earlier, about kind of like learning to develop your own voice and be confident in the work you're doing and owning that. I've gotten comfortable, when Cullen was describing my work, humor, that took me a while to be okay with finding humor as a theme for a lot of what I do. I try not to say, oh, I paint in this style, and there's nothing wrong with having a specific style that you paint in, or sculpt in or whatever. But I often like to say, that I have a common tone or a common, approach to my work, and humor is usually at the base of it. So, I think, no, I never really thought at the time that I would ever be, absolutely not jurying a show, but, that people would really care about anything that I had to say. That's hard. Everybody's going to go through their own journey when it comes to believing that anybody outside of your own bubble cares at all about anything you do. I will say that, one of the techniques that I went through to help me get over that hump was, this is going to sound really grim, okay, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The idea that, okay, so you guys are at your school, okay? You do a specific thing, okay? Whether that's screen printing or painting or drawing or whatever. So you look at all the people that are in your school who are trying to do the same thing as you, and whatever, make it or have people buy their work, or just, have a body of work, whatever. Now, like, go out from that concentric circle to your city. Now go out to the region. Now go out to the state, country, world, etc. If you really think about it, there are like millions of people who are trying to do the same thing you are. If you can come out of that understanding, still liking what you do, or still being interested in doing it, or still interested in pursuing it, that's what matters. And I feel like it took me a while to get to that point. So no, I never thought about jurying a show, but I also never thought at the time that anybody would really think it was interesting, that anybody would really, say, you know what, I really like what he's doing. I want to pay him for that, or I want to tell somebody that, they should check this guy out. I'm not saying money is a goal for everybody, but whatever you define your own success as, other people will be into you if you're into yourself. It is a strange feeling when you sell work to a stranger, when you get a fellowship or a grant or something, and somebody goes, here, take the monies. And you're like, well, wait, what do you want for this? And they're like, nothing, keep making work. That's a weird feeling. But it happens. And even if it doesn't happen, the world is too big for nobody to like something you're doing. Okay. I just watched a documentary on Tekashi 6ix9ine, and he's living proof of that. I can remember when I was doing other stuff, it took me a while to sort of be comfortable with saying I was a painter. I used to like to do various kinds of things. I used to paint on shoes. I used to do vinyl toys. I used to do skateboards. I would do whatever I was like, felt like I could get my hands on. And I would sell some stuff. And I was like, why does this person want to buy? Why does this person want to buy it? And then you sort of get comfortable with that. Then you get comfortable being invited to shows. And then you get comfortable with, being part of group exhibitions. And then you get comfortable with somebody asking you to jury other people's work. It doesn't mean it feels supernatural, but at that level, you say, okay, like I'm exuding confidence, and I believe in what I do. These people believe in me enough to say, okay, well, he can talk about his own work and he can understand what he's doing. It'd be really great if he could do this and talk about these other people's work. So never thought I would get there, but you kind of just take it step by step. And it's a little daunting to think about like it taking a while. I mean, when I think about, I graduated in 2006 and this is 15 years later, you kind of just like look at, your own next steps and your own next, successes, again, like whatever you define those as, and just sort of take it in stride type thing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you, Carl.
Awesome.
Hello.
Hey, Carl, I have the,
sorry.
I had the pleasure of actually going to the MoCA, and I remember seeing the Just Try and felt excited about it. Then I saw the young lady put the net around it, and I was like, oh, that's wonderful. And then the gentleman added the flowers and I think fruits. And I was like, great. And then they started going on top, and then I kind of felt that anxiety. And I was like, where's everything that I was seeing before? And, when I initially saw the painting, I was like, oh, this is fabulous. This is magnificent. But then when I saw it being created, it blew me away, because each time I just wanted to scream, stop. Okay, no more. No more. That's it. Don't touch it. It's perfect. And the end piece is absolutely phenomenal. But that was an anxiety-filled roller coaster of me just wanting to, it looks perfect. Don't do anything else to it. And just see it slowly change. And then I realized, like, that is the artwork also. Is the artwork, and a finished product is just basically the essence of what the video is. So I just thought it was phenomenal.
Oh, thank you very much. That means a lot. That was praise be to MoCA. They let me say, what do you want to do? And I pitched them the idea. And like what we were talking about before about like, oh, this is terrible. I remember I sent Allison Byrne and Heather Hakitsuma, who are the people who put that on at MoCA. I wrote the pitch and I sent it to them, and I was like, hey, here's my pitch for what I want to do. What do you guys think? And they only responded with, thanks for sending this. Can we talk Thursday? And I was like, ugh. And I'm like, they're going to hate it. They're going to hate it. They're going to hate it. They're going to want me to do something completely different. And they let me do whatever I wanted. And it was like really, really great, because what you're feeling is everything that I wanted people to feel. I wanted you to see part of the concept was I was having to relate to a food organization that I worked with. That's a food rescue. And so there's a lot of anxiety at these events. They're very organic. They're not super organized. They're on the fly. Like, you kind of don't know what's happening at one time. I wanted to display that. If I did a painting, you would sort of look at the painting and talk about the painting and go, okay, like, I think I can see that. But to go through that process, what I'm sure a lot of you went through when you were making this stuff, that's something that not a lot of people see. And take that from somebody like I can relate to everything you guys put into this stuff, because I know the roller coaster, like we talked about, that you go through to do it. And I'm just looking at the final product. I get to judge it based on what I see. So there is that other part of it that I wish more people understood and appreciated. So thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Amber Pierce. I just have a quick comment. number one, I'm so grateful to just be showing among so many spectacular artists. I'm a big fan of the show. I went and stayed and looked around, and even the music that's playing from one of the animations just sets the tone for the whole show so nicely. It's so intimate and it just really captured a very special feeling. It was intense, but it was comforting at the same time. So awesome. I really enjoyed all the work and your choices. And I was really surprised that either of my pieces got in, because a few months ago was my first deep dive into fiber material at all.
Wow.
I normally paint and draw, and I just didn't think that people really cared about fiber as a material. So it kind of like what you were saying, I had to find what I cared about. And being in isolation revealed to me that if no one ever sees me outside of my house again, I'm still very passionate about my life, and I'm very passionate about my friends and my family, and, how we've been able to persevere through this time. So that's what I explored in my artwork. And my question for you is, how has the pandemic revealed any new functions of your own artistry or your identity as an artist?
Good question. And congratulations again, Amber. Really, really good work. Very surprising that you've just now dove into fabrics. That's incredible. There's an artist. I don't know if any of you are able to go out to the Contemporary Artists Network, the CAN out in Newport News. There's an artist there. I feel really bad because I can't remember her name, but she works with like felt. She kind of does that technique where you sort of, I don't know what it's called, but you can almost like sculpt things with felt with a needle point and stuff. Absolutely amazing. So very, very, very cool medium, very, very, a lot of possibilities. In terms of the pandemic and my approach to things, I mentioned earlier being a father. My son is going to turn 2 in May. He was born, May 2019. Super stressful time because we were actually, like in April, I think it was, we were moving. We moved to Hampton from Norfolk. Literally the weekend we were moving, I had a mural that I was working on at the ocean front for something in the water festival. And I was like, this is stupid. I'm not going to do it. I can't do this. Like, my wife was 38 weeks pregnant or whatever. She's like, no, you need to take this opportunity. You're not going to, don't pass this up. So she moved our house while I'm painting this mural at the ocean front, feeling like a dunce, but it was an amazing experience. That was my life before. I was able to sort of have everything overlap and just be like, yeah, like I'll stay up till 1 a.m. doing this thing. And then I'll go to work the next morning at 9 and that'll be my life. And that overlap was possible. Once my son was born, it was not possible anymore. You are having to refigure out your life in terms of both actual free time, and then you've got all these emotions about inspirations and things that are, you have highs and lows, and you sort of feel guilty about things, and you feel responsible about things, and you feel inspired about things. So I was going through all of this stuff, and I that summer, or last summer actually, I sort of sat down. That summer, sat down and kind of put together a body of work I wanted to work on, all centered around this idea of what my life is now. Like, what am I inspired by? What am I comforted by? What are things that I'm reminded of now that I have a son? And then this happened. And it's like being a new parent all over again. Like, we couldn't go anywhere. You can't do anything. The silver lining is I got to work from home and see my son grow up. Like, I got to see his first steps, and I got to just, pencils down at 5 o'clock and go on a walk with them. But this idea, I couldn't get the idea of new normal out of my head. You know, people kept saying it over and over and over again. I'm like, new normal, this is like a second normal, because I already experienced this a year ago. Because you're thank God for streaming television. I don't know how new parents did that before any of that. But so now I'm thinking of like, okay, well, I still really want to make this body of work, but it's kind of cool that I held off on doing it, because now it sort of means something completely different. It sort of has evolved, this idea of home, this idea of confidence, this idea of equality, this idea of, all of these things that I was hearing over and over again. So I guess I've kind of used it as a time to sort of reset something that I was literally about to do. And it was a nice accident that happened. I think as an artist, you guys will find one of the worst questions, and I'm super happy that nobody has asked this yet, is what inspires you? Yuck. Like, everything is always inspirational. I mean, you're being inspired by stuff that you don't even realize. So, always have something that you can write ideas down. The Notes app in a phone, in your iPhone or whatever the Android version is amazing. I literally have a running list of ideas. I'm not going to break it out right now, but there probably would be a lot of stuff I don't even remember that doesn't make sense. Like, what's rainbow cow? But like this idea of always being a sponge, always taking it in. So having this intense year of the pandemic on top of everything else, I mean, I just used it as soaking everything up. I think once the dust settles, you're going to see some really, really incredible work where people are going to be like, oh my gosh, yeah, remember that? Like, remember how terrible that was, or remember how amazing that was, or remember like how inspiring that was. Like, and I'm excited to be a part of that. Once I can actually get the work down, but I'm really using it as a time of just a reset of like, okay, like I've had this opportunity to sort of not do the stuff I was about to do. I still want this stuff to exist, but how can I evolve it? And how can I collaborate with it? Before I was talking about doing it all myself. Now there's some people I want to involve in the work based on what I want it to do and how I want it to, come across. And which is, I think I said before, is super, super important as an artist. Like, always look for opportunities for collaboration. It'll open you up to like just incredible opportunities, but also like it'll push your work. Some of my favorite work has come from doing it with other people. I have a mural here in Norfolk that is right by the Chrysler. It's this large, it's called Bloom, but it's this large pink roses with teeth on it. I did that with two other guys, Charles Rasputin, who's a new media artist. And then we had this graffiti artist from Richmond who came down and actually helped us install it, Brad Bacon. I wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for them, but also the idea of just letting go some and like letting other people own part of it is amazing. So, but back to your point, really just kind of taking it as a way to sort of like practice a little bit more of what I preach of soaking stuff in. There's so much to take in over the last year. I mean, you can just say 2020 and you don't even need to say anything else. Everybody understands like, politics of it, the health of it, the, equity of it, and a lot of that stuff was building before the year, but I think it just sort of encapsulated all of it. So.
Well, I want to take the opportunity to thank everybody for being part of this inspiring program. It was so great to get together in this way and to share all of your creativity with a much wider audience online, which is something that we wouldn't typically be able to do at an in-person gathering. So the time that we are in, as odd and challenging as it is not necessarily without its benefits. Want to thank you, Carl, for being willing to serve as the juror, for doing such a great job, and for being available for this program. My personal favorite is your amazing description of the psychological running of the gauntlet of creativity. You made me feel like I was back inside all of the creative projects I've ever been involved in, and it was very cathartic. So thank you for that. That should be a poem and a song and a movie. And thank you to all the students who've been part of this show. Special congratulations to Amber Pierce for winning Best in Show. And we will transition now to some prepared artist talks from students, some of whom couldn't be with us tonight. So thank you again for everybody being part of this. Don't forget to go to odu.edu/arts or go on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram @ODUArts to keep updated with all that's going on at Arts at ODU and the Gordon Galleries, and to reserve your spot driving Gordon, the telepresence robot, for all the exhibitions currently up and that we will have in the future. So with that, thank you again, everybody. This was great.
Yes,
And
great job, everyone.
We will see you soon.
Hi everyone, my name is Lynn Dowling, and I am the artist for the painting called Sun Goddess. So my painting is actually part of an old series that I did last year called the Black Female Femininity series, where I touch on the issues of how the media given Black women and girls a imbalance of corrected promotion, and how stereotypes and tropes has caused a harmful narrative to us, due to the simple fact that it's more so of a cause and effect, where a community will treat people a certain way due to what is being given out or portrayed. And so for me as an artist, I felt the need to help correct those stereotypes or tropes by giving a better representation, where I figure femininity was a good way to go, because there is a lack of it, or is being overshadowed when it does come to mainstream media. So the model that I chose for my painting, she is actually a relative of mine, a very close one, and just her presence alone just shines up the room, and she gives off such a bubbly personality, and that's the reason why I went with the title Sun Goddess, because she is like the sunshine. I also use colors as a way to express her personality as well, and that's why you can see the vibrance of colors in the artwork. And also using like flowers to show how Black women can be delicate as well, due to simply the trope of always saying that Black women and girls are always tough and strong, and lack the delicacy or the just being fragile in a way. When even then, like, everyone can be vulnerable at whatever time. I think that's all I have to say for my artwork. I really did enjoy working on it, and spending time to getting to know more on this subject. So thank you for listening, and I hope you get to see my artwork at the gallery. Bye.
Hello, my name is Lauren Haygood, and I wanted to talk briefly about my art piece on display titled What is on the Inside Matters. And when I come up with an idea for my artwork, either I come up with an idea instantly after hearing the school assignment, or it takes me a long time to sort of pick and piece out what I want to do for the assignment. So for this piece, it was more of the latter, and it came to life as I was working on it. It was more of I felt it out while I was working on it. But I knew I wanted to do some sort of an intestine, a rib cage sort of project. So I started with the box and pieced together the inside as I went. I picked the wood based on the colors. So the box is more of a yellow color, and the backbone and the ribs are a whiter wood, and the lungs, of course, are a red wood. So I leave more of this interpretation of this artwork up to the viewer for however they want to see it, what meaning it gives for them.
Hi, my name's Sequoia McLaurin. I'm a senior at ODU and I'm a graphic designer and artist. My two entries for this year's exhibition are Juxtaposition Magazine and Saturn's Revenge. The first piece is inspired by my interest in contrast, hence the name. When designing Juxtaposition Magazine, I want to branch out and do something I don't normally do. I want to experiment with a more editorial and sophisticated style. The contrast in this design is rather literal. The bold red sans serif font stands out while the more traditional, delicate black serif font frames it. The word itself is repeated in this solid red type. At the middle of the design, it sharply terminates, and its outline reflection continues for the remainder of the cover. Overall, it was an exercise in achieving a certain aesthetic. But for my second piece, Saturn's Revenge, it's a bit more erratic, expressive, and personal. So it's inspired by Saturn's return. In astrology, Saturn's return occurs every 29.5 years, which is when the planet Saturn reaches the same place in the sky it was when you were born. In Western astrology, the first return symbolizes leaving youth behind and entering adulthood. For me, this piece communicates the struggle and hardship in finding one's identity and place in the world and trying to make peace with it. So that's just a little bit about my work. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of the submissions.
Hello, my name is Eva James, and I am a senior at ODU, majoring in art history with a minor in studio art. The title of this project for the exhibition is Problems with Seeing. Over the last year or two, I've noticed a shift in my artwork becoming more meaningful and revealing while at the same time being a productive avenue of communication. So this project was created as a final project for a studio art class, Intro to Art Therapy. Each section of the class was broken down into process and materials and the application in art therapy, which we were allowed to explore. The message in Problems with Seeing is representative of a personal journey from ill health, the hard work to receive proper medical treatment and maintain a stable condition, and to finally being able to face whatever is to come. Being open to the process, I was able to tap into printmaking's help with the release of control, along with drawing, painting, charcoal, all the mixed media assembled into an altered book. Each page was its own puzzle, and it felt as if I was integrating all the different parts of myself. This was a very therapeutic process, and thank you.
Hello, my name is Amber Pierce, and I'm the artist behind Shades of Blue and A Soft Spot to Rest Your Head. A Soft Spot to Rest Your Head was my reaction to everything that has been going on in 2020, specifically in my community. I created a physical, designated space for Black girls and women to take a break from the emotional, physical, and mental draining situations that have been going on socially. And I created a pillow. And for Shades of Blue, that was my first exploration into combining fibers with ceramic ware. And I referenced a style of ceramic ware called Delft ware, which universally is highly regarded and considered precious. And I created my own vessel, poked holes into it, and adorned it with embroidered images of my friends and my family and myself. And this was my way of presenting what is important to me and what is precious and highly regarded to myself. And I'm hoping that the idea that my narrative, my experience is important is, accepted. And so both kind of speak to the idea that craft, art, and material deserves to be just as highly regarded as other materials that are considered fine art. And just the importance that craft material has historically. Its origins are usually indigenous or specifically used by artists of color. And I just wanted to explore and showcase the narrative quality, the visual quality, and just the very special nature that craft material has. And I'm excited to continue exploring that in my own practice. Thank you so much for selecting these pieces for the Juried exhibition. Thank you so much for spending some time with hearing my thoughts on them. And just thank you very much. All right, you all. Bye.